What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Today, we've got another live fantasy football mock draft for you back on ESPN with a 12-team full PPR mock where we'll be selecting 11th overall. Should be pretty interesting. And while we wait to get to our pick, quick reminder, if you guys enjoy, hit that like button, subscribe, give us a follow on Twitter at AllDayPigskin to continue interacting with us there. Let us hear it in the comments section. You agree, disagree with these picks, your thoughts in general, along with any other questions you guys might have. We'll do our best to answer them all. But with that being said, let's get right into it. And maybe you heard me chuckle a little bit. And the reason for that chuckle will become apparent in a little because we're going to break down these selections. Let's look at the pick history here. And you see the first two names, Christian McCaffrey, Breece Hall, no issues there. And then you see Patrick Mahomes going third overall. Yeah, that's... I want to say that almost invalidates this entire draft, but let's see what happens in the second round. This might be a pretty short video if it even makes it that far. But yeah, so McCaffrey, Breece Hall, Patrick Mahomes, CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek, Jamar Chase, Bijan, Amon-Ra, A.J. Brown, and then Justin Jefferson. Now, the top three running backs are gone. Garrett Wilson is my highest ranked wide receiver left. I want to get a difference maker at wide receiver. I know I'm going to be able to get either Jonathan Taylor, Saquon Barkley, or Jahmyr Gibbs. So I'm getting my top tier wide receiver here at 11. And then I'm going to get whichever one of those three running backs that I mentioned, Taylor, Barkley, or Jahmyr Gibbs, is left standing. So actually, they are all left standing. And I've got Jonathan Taylor, Saquon Barkley, and Jahmyr Gibbs. I've said this before for all of these guys. Like, you know, I think from a full PPR perspective, you could argue Jahmyr Gibbs has the highest upside. But he's also, you know, in a running back by committee. Saquon Barkley, Jonathan Taylor, they also have their issues in regards to, you know, competition from their quarterbacks. They're going to get vultured from Jalen Hurts and from Anthony Richardson, respectively. In this scenario, I ended up selecting Jahmyr Gibbs. You know, I really don't think there's a wrong selection to make between those three running backs. In the first round, there was nothing super crazy other than that Patrick Mahomes selection. Let's see if that craziness continues. So we had Marvin Harrison in the second round. I think that's super early for him. I've said that before. I'm not a fan of that selection. I think that he should be much closer to Malik Neighbors. Then we see Jahmyr Gibbs. We see Chris Olave. We see Saquon Barkley, Jonathan Taylor. Tremendous value in both those guys. Kyren Williams, Michael Pittman, Derrick Henry, Isaiah Pacheco. I believe the person that selected Patrick Mahomes just selected Travis Etienne, which that's a pick that makes sense. So at least in terms of ADPs, it's not like he selected a kicker or something like that, or somebody super undervalued. So look, I guess this is going to be the mock home league draft, if you will, where you see somebody select a quarterback super early on because, you know, just because it's Patrick Mahomes, just because it's Josh Allen or something like that. So, you know, other than that, nothing too crazy. Depending on how many home league drafts you're in and you know, how many people you draft with and how in the know they are, you might see some craziness like this, but obviously we have to point that out and say that that Patrick Mahomes going third overall is absolutely insane, and that would not happen in, you know, your typical expert draft, if you will. But in the third round, let's look at this breakdown. We see Josh Allen, Joe Mixon, Travis Kelce, A-Chain, Nico Collins, Mike Evans, Sam Laporta. Nothing crazy there either. You know, Josh Allen going at the start of the third, that's where you typically see your first quarterback being selected. So again, I'm going to do my best to try and ignore that Patrick Mahomes selection third overall. Drake London drops to 32nd overall. That's pretty crazy. I think that's really, really good value. Jalen Hurts then goes. I was hoping for Rachaad White to drop to us. He does not. Let's take a look at what we have left available. I'm looking at the running backs here. Running backs, I think Alvin Kamara is the best running back left available. Wide receiver-wise, I think there's some good wide receivers going to make it back to us. So here, I'm going to Alvin Kamara for sure. Have Alvin Kamara, Jahmyr Gibbs, two solid PPR type of running backs. So from here on out, we can focus on I think kind of actually go best player available to some extent, right? DK Metcalf, Stephon Diggs, Brandon Ayuk, DJ Moore, Jalen Waddle, Devonta Smith. A lot of good wide receivers still left available. I'm looking at Jalen Waddle. I like Jalen Waddle. I like Cooper Kupp. I like both these guys. I'll switch it up. I'll go with Jalen Waddle here. And I'm just curious to see how far Cooper Kupp potentially falls. I imagine he'll go somewhere in the middle of the 4th round. All these guys at this point in time, I think you can argue have their fair share of questions. Stephon Diggs, new team, age. Is he the number 2 option? Is he the number 3 option, right? Brandon Ayuk, similar type of situation. Can he sustain the efficiency that he had last year? And is he even going to be on the 49ers at the start of the season? Devonta Smith, the number 2 option opposite A.J. Brown. I think he's just a little bit too inconsistent for my liking. Cooper Kupp, you could argue he could be the number 1 option, just age and some injuries. But let's look at this pick history view here again, because no draft board, unfortunately, even though 21st century ESPN's got to get on that. Round 4, George Pickens. Pretty early for George Pickens, but I've said this before in our breakdown of players that are going to see their value skyrocket. I pointed out George Pickens, and I told you don't be shocked if his value continues to go up. Here you see him drafted at the start of the 4th. Then we went Waddle. Then it was DK Metcalf. Then DJ Moore. DJ Moore, I really like the player. Had a great season last year. Competition this year is going to be on a whole nother level. Lamar Jackson, Brendan Ayuk, Kenneth Walker, then Devonta Smith, Malik Neighbors, and Cooper Kupp. So basically all those wide receivers that were kind of grouped together in that Jalen Waddle tier have now all gone off the board. Deebo Samuel and Stephon Diggs rounds out the end of the 4th round, followed by his teammate, Tank Dell. I'm not sure about that stack of Stephon Diggs and Tank Dell, 2 Houston wide receivers. I don't like that. I guess one way or another, you're going to have the number 2 wide receiver on Houston, but that's not necessarily how I would approach it. If I'm getting the stack in Houston, I'm going quarterback and wide receiver, or quarterback and running back. So in the 5th round, I was really hoping that Trey McBride would fall to us. He does not. So second pick in the 5th, Terry McLaurin, Zay Flowers, then Anthony Richardson, then Ramondre Stevenson, then it was Trey McBride. Damn it. Dalton Kincaid also goes. There goes kind of our top tier tight ends, because Mark Andrews, Dalton Kincaid. I would have gone Dalton Kincaid probably, to try and get an advantage there. Evan Ingram is still available. Kyle Pitts is also still there. I think I can get one of those guys in the next. Well, I know for a fact I can. Here, maybe we go with a little bit of CJ Stroud action. Get that last top tier, potentially quarterback. Dak, Joe Burrow, Kyler Murray, Zamir White just went. I do have CJ Stroud a little bit ahead of both of them. Here, we don't need a quarterback anymore. Running back, we're all right with. We have 2 good starters. Wide receiver, Garrett Wilson, Jalen Waddle. I feel good about that. Make sure. T. Higgins is kind of tempting here. Let's see what happens with tight end. I want to get T. Higgins, a solid flex option. Christian Kirk, also somebody that comes to mind. Ooh, tight end just immediately after I went with T. Higgins, Evan Ingram is selected. So I doubt Kyle Pitts will make it back to us. A couple auto picks have popped up here. So I think this is going to be a build where we wait for the tight end position. Yeah, and that's all right, because I feel like recently we have been investing in tight end earlier. When I say earlier, I mean like in the 5th or 6th round, something like that, and getting good values. Yeah, so there goes Kyle Pitts. Completely understandable. In the 6th round, after we decided to go with T. Higgins, I thought, hey, the flex position, getting a solid flex player, probably a little bit, more pressing. Then, after we went T. Higgins, Evan Ingram, James Conner, David Montgomery, Calvin Ridley, Jalen Warren, Kyle Pitts, Chris Godwin, Keenan Allen. I like the value on Keenan Allen. Look, let's get this out of the way. He's not going to be Keenan Allen of old, right? But there was a world where Keenan Allen is the number one wide receiver for the Chicago Bears. It's just that he won't be uberly, targeted like he has been in years prior. I wouldn't be shocked if he starts out strong and then kind of, slows down as Rome Odunze, the rookie wide receiver, picks up some steam. But we'll see. That I think that trio of wide receivers is going to be really, really interesting in Chicago. So in the 7th round, Rashee Rice, Dak Prescott, Najee Harris, David Njoku, Joe Burrow, Kyler Murray. So we did kind of also see that run on quarterbacks. If we didn't get a quarterback, we'd be looking at the Jordan Loves and the Brock Purdy's of the world. For what that's worth, there goes Jordan Love, Brian Robinson. I'm curious if the guy that I really want is going to be selected here, or if we're going to have to wait a little bit. Christian Kirk just went. That was the guy, folks. That was the guy that I was really hoping would fall to us. Jake Ferguson, I think right now, does this person have a tight end? They do not. I think Jake Ferguson is the best tight end kind of left available. TJ Hawkinson, you got to worry about injuries, right? And I think they might have gone on auto pick. So let's go with Jake Ferguson here. It's going to be our first selection. And then running back, wide receiver. Zach Moss would have probably been my selection at running back if he had made it back to us. So now we're on the clock. We need a wide receiver or a running back. I don't mind Raheem Mostert, Jerome Ford, also somebody that I like. Let's actually look at our team. C.J. Stroud, Jahmyr Gibbs, Alvin Kamara, Garrett Wilson, Jalen Waddle, Ferguson, T. Higgins. I think that Deontay Johnson is somebody that I really, really like in PPR formats. I'm going to pull the trigger on him here. And then I think this is going to kind of go pretty quickly. And we're going to be able to make 2 more selections here before we know it. And if that is the case, the names that I'm going to be looking at are probably somebody like a Raheem Mostert, a Trey Benson, or Jerome Ford, a Gus Edwards, since we want to get some more running back depth, right? I mean, even though we do have some really nice PPR guys in Gibbs and Alvin Kamara, we only have 2 running backs. This is where you want to start adding depth. This is where you want to start to add some high upside guys that can potentially become starters, because we definitely need to address that. We have wide receiver, a good situation there with Wilson, Waddle, Higgins, and Deontay Johnson. I think between those names, we're going to be able to find a combo that works for us, starting wide receivers and a flex name. Ferguson, probably a little bit of a reach, but I wanted to make sure that, we got a tight end that I was happy with. Ooh, there goes Raheem Mostert. There goes Nick Chubb. All right, Jameson Williams. I think we're still going to be able to get Jerome Ford, though, at least. And right now, look, I'm taking Jerome Ford ahead of Nick Chubb just because I have no clue when Nick Chubb is going to be available, if he's going to be available for the majority of the season, and how cautious the Browns will be with him considering his injury. So here, I'm going to go with Jerome Ford, and then if I have the chance, I would go with Gus Edwards in the, 10th round, I guess? Yeah. And we're going to have our starting roster pretty much taken care of. And, we can kind of break it down now while we wait. C.J. Stroud, I think we have a borderline top 5 quarterback for fantasy purposes. Running backs, Gibbs, Kamara. I think Gibbs, you can say borderline top 5 guy for full PPR. Alvin Kamara, I think he can still be a low-end RB1. I'm very high on Garrett Wilson. I think he can be a top 5 wide receiver. Jalen Waddle, I think we just got really good value on. Ferguson is one of those mid-tier tight ends. This is not going to be a top 5 tight end, but I think he can be serviceable. Then T. Higgins, Deontay Johnson, some high upside wide receivers. Now we're going to go with Gus Edwards. Basically, we're getting potentially starting running backs in the 9th and 10th round. They're not flashy, they're not sexy, but they can get the job done if there's injuries during bye weeks, during situations like that. So I like the squad we put together here. I think it's pretty balanced, but hey, let me know your thoughts. If you agree, disagree, along with any other questions you guys might have. We'll do our best to answer them all. If you enjoyed, hit that like button, subscribe, and give us a follow on Twitter at AllDayPigskin to continue interacting with us there. But in the meantime, we'll see you guys in future videos.